begin those measured steps by which the nation bears its fallen presidents into history.
Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee.
All who came here were expressing their shock and outrage at what had happened.
Senseless, totally shocked.
Whether you die a star on the world stage or alone in a dark alley, we all die. If you are born into this world, then you are surely going to leave this world. Very few of us know the time or the place or the reason. Every year in the United States of America, 200,000 people die. 100,000 from disease and illness, 50,000 from accidents. 30,000 die before the age of 60, 20,000 die before the age of 20, and 1,000 die over the age of 100.
If you are reading this letter, it means that my body has given out and I am no longer here with you physically. This may seem like a sad day, but I am hoping you will find comfort in knowing that it is not sad for me. At the time of this writing, I am 39 years old, and I have just planned my funeral. I did not do this because I was ill, or because I particularly liked the idea of dying. I did it because along the journey of my life, I discovered something very profound. We will all die. And in that moment, where our friends and family are gathered around to say their last goodbyes, there is an amazing opportunity, with a captive audience, for each of us to leave a message, the message of our lives. I discovered that when you really begin to think about the fact that you will not live forever, you begin to think about your life differently, and it changes everything.
Hey, when I die, I want you to make sure that there's an open casket. I want you to make sure that they put a smile on my face. If they have to tape the corners of my mouth up, go ahead and do that. And I want the sign to be just a simple cardboard sign that says, "Want to know why I'm smiling?" And then underneath in smaller letters, write, "Ask Andrew or Chloe." And those are my children. And they said, "Well, what are we going to say?" And I said, "Then I want you to tell them that I'm in heaven, and I want you to tell them how to get there." Someone would die, I would always ask about, did they have their arrangements made, and what did they want? And I would see the people grieving and struggling with making the decisions about their funeral or their loved one's funeral. And it really was very difficult for me. I didn't understand why it was so hard. The person was dead. What difference did it make? And so then I lost my aunt, and it was I think it was in 2000, and she had left a list of things that she wanted, like a certain dress that she wanted to be buried in, and I think she had written something about not wearing her glasses because sleeping people don't wear glasses. And I remember going to her funeral, and not everything was exactly the way the list was, and I felt like, oh no, we didn't do it right. But what difference does it make? She's dead. So I realized that the funeral isn't for the person who's died, it's for the people who are left behind. What have I got to lose? If you believe that when you die, you just go into the ground and that's it, and I spend my life in joy and happiness, and I believe that I'm going to spend eternity in heaven because that's what the Bible says, and I'm wrong, then I just die and go into the ground. But if I'm right, I get to spend eternity in heaven.
If you ask enough people, you will find that everyone has an opinion on death. By far, I have found that one of the most intriguing things about death in this world is the age-old question of what happens next. It would seem that there are no scientifically verifiable accounts of people who have experienced it completely and come back to tell, but everyone has some view on what happens after we die. But you might wonder, as I did for a long time, which view is really right.
Death is the end of biological life. It's when it's all over. You've played your last card.
When you put the fact that we, as opposed to really any other species on the planet, we know we're going to die.
You know, death is real.
In the past, I had great fear of death.
I do not like to talk about death.
For me, it was an unknown, something to be dreaded and feared.
And because of that, so much of our culture and our history revolves around how we choose to try to figure out what that's going to be like.
We actually go to a different level, you know, that we leave, our physical body leaves, but our spirit is still here. That's how I feel.
You know, your spirit's moved off to, you know, heaven or wherever, you know, most people believe that your spirit goes one day. So I would just think that it's when your body is dead.
So do you ever think about your own death?
I do. Mostly when I fly and I'm scared of the flight.
I used to be scared to death to die. And then I got saved, and I looked forward to it as an end to a good life. But I think I'm back to worrying about it now.
Well, I think dying's part of living. We learned early in the Bible that we're all going to die.
We have to live today to the best of our ability, because tomorrow death might come on us.
I walk around thinking I'm invincible, and I have many people telling me that I walk around thinking I'm invincible, but at the moment it's like whoa, and it kind of makes you take a step back. But then the days kind of go on, and I just keep thinking I'm invincible, and I guess until one day I won't be anymore. So
it's not something as a person you want to believe can be a reality, and you think, oh, your mom and your dad and your little sister are all of young ages, so it's not something you would think could happen tomorrow or the next day versus someone who's 70 or 80 years old. So, but in reality, it could happen tomorrow.
You know, my experience, I've been doing this 18 years. I mean, when people, the number one reason that people don't make wills is that they're afraid that as soon as they make that will, they're going to die. You give that personal experience to people to let them know that, I mean, you're not doing this for yourself, you're not doing this to prepare to die, you're doing it so no one will curse you, you know, while they're burying you. I can't believe they created this problem for me.
Well, what do I remember like for the time before I was born, before I came to this earth. So I kind of picture it being the same, just kind of going to a blank space and it's like nothing.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And as far as what it means to me, having seen it, it means grief for those that I leave behind, whoever they may be.
I would define the word death as moving from the human experience to a spiritual experience, which I can't describe, but I trust it's good.
My belief is that when you die, you just cease to exist. You're done.
Of course. I think of death. I try not to dwell on it. I think I used to dwell on it more than I do now. But yes.
I mean, it's inevitable. We shall all die. So I know that that's going to be another chapter.
There's so many different ways to define it. You know, it's an ultimate, you know, I'm gone, but at the same time, because of my beliefs, there'll be an afterlife of some kind.
All people have to die. You can do it with dignity, you can do it cowering in the corner, but it is an inevitability for one and all.
I mean, what if it was the opposite? What if you were stuck here forever? Like, that to me is scarier than dying.
I think we have to die to make room for new people. Could you imagine if this world was full of everybody that's ever lived?
On an intellectual level, we know we will all die. Death is very real, and it impacts us more when we lose someone we love.
My dad died when I was 8 of cancer. It started out as lung cancer, and eventually over the course of a year it grew into several body parts. And
when my dad died, it was devastating because he was my rock. I loved him to death, and I was 32 years old.
I didn't even really grasp the concept that my dad was going to die or that he could die. I just knew he was sick.
So that was my first extremely emotional time. I mean, I lost it. You know, it was incredibly painful.
And when he did die, I had, I mean, my mom was just really absent in that time at dealing with it herself. She was a very young mother, you know, with 2 kids, and I think she was just trying to deal with it the best she could. But we just didn't like really talk about it that much, and I didn't know what to think.
I remember going to see him. We had him in a nursing home. He was only there for 2 months, and one of the last, it was the last day, and we went and saw him, you know, and you know, he wasn't right. And we're like, my brother and I were there, and it's like, you know, it was time for him to go.
I tell them there's a way to see them again if you just believe in God and let Him take control of your life. And just trust in Him that everything will be okay with or without that person in your life.
I always said, and I told her, if you die, it'll be because you choked on a granola bar. Because she ate right, did everything right. But then in 2009, she started feeling bad at the end of February, and it just snowballed, and she died in July. And they never figured out what it was, really.
You know, his dad was just a really great guy, sacrificed a lot for his family, took care of his mom for years, and so just the sacrifices he made, I just find it really hard to believe that it's over.
And when I see people crying, sometimes it really makes me want to cry because I know that person is hurting inside. It's very hurting real bad.
I went inside. I went to my father's bed. I grabbed his hand. He looked at me, and he died. He had waited for his oldest son to come before he went to be with Jesus.
I saw a saying not long ago, and it said, a child fills a hole in your heart that you never knew was empty until they came. That's true. On January 29th, 2007, I got up and was busy that day, and the phone rang. What? are you talking about? Finally, she said, he is dead. And I just fell on the floor, found out where he was. And as I lay on the floor crying, Ken, my husband, he came and laid in the floor with me. And he said, I thought you might die right then. My son was my life. But there is nothing at that time that can console you.
Several hours after getting the phone call that her son was dead, Paula Whitaker's first glimpse of her only child, Ryan, was in a body bag. He was 25 years old when he passed away and had been found on the sofa in his home, not breathing.
What am I going to do with my life? My son was my life. That's what I worked so hard for. His children, his grandchildren, going to college, all of the things that you work for and live for. And he said something simple yet profound, and I know it was God's words, you'll have to do something. I said, okay, I'll have to do something. And that at that moment began the thinking process, what can I do?
About 12 days before Ryan passed away, he had a conversation with his mom about his life, and he had told her that he wanted to go back to college to be a nurse so that he could help people. Paula decided to use Ryan's inheritance to establish an endowment at Lone Star College for a nursing scholarship in memory of her son. She completed the paperwork for the endowment before Ryan's funeral, which marked the beginning of the Ryan Paul Whitaker Memorial Foundation.
Nothing we do in our life is as important as the things we do for others and the things we in turn do for God.
If I could choose my death, I would like it to be in a fiery blaze of glory, something absolutely crazy like a plane crash or a car wreck where I roll my truck 15 times and it flips off a cliff or something memorable. I don't want to go in my sleep or, because of cancer or something like that.
I want to die in my sleep. That's the way I want to die. I don't want to drown, don't want a car wreck because some kind of way your body's going to get tore up. I just want to die a peaceful death in my sleep.
Gosh, I'd like to die, saving someone else if that's possible. The thing I wouldn't want to do, probably, I don't know, there are a lot of horrible things that ways you could die. Probably in a fire.
Yeah, I'd hate to be somebody, in a building on 9/11, knowing that I can't escape and, it's either burn to death or jump out the window. I don't want to have to make that decision. That's got to be the most difficult decision that anybody could make.
I think the perfect way would be to be perfectly healthy and then die in a short time. I guess this is the way my dad died.
Yeah, I've changed on that way too. I used to think I wanted to die in my sleep, and I think most recently I've realized that's a little bit selfish because that's easy on me, and losing friends like I have in the past year that I did not get to say goodbye to, it made me change to I want my family and friends around me so that they have that opportunity to say goodbye.
I hope I die quick. Whatever it is.
The nuisance of dying. Being dead's okay, but gosh, what a nuisance to have to go through that dying process. So we have talked about how we'd like to escape. Not anything drastic, it'd be nice if we could both go to sleep and not wake up. Maybe we could, I won't say that.
And if I could choose, gosh, I'd say that you'd want to be in a hospital-like environment and be able to say goodbye to your loved ones and probably have them medicate you in some way. Like that would be not painful.
My bucket list started with a list of things I wanted to do before I turned 40.
Can you tell me, do you have a bucket list?
Absolutely, I do.
You do? How long have you had it?
Most of my adult life, but primarily the last 11 years. My dear husband died 11 years ago, and that was an awakening to how short and wonderful life is, and to live life to its fullest.
And that's my bucket list, to make sure that I leave a legacy for my kids to be the best people that they can be for themselves and for others, and to make a difference in the world.
I want to go to Italy.
What about you?
I want to go to Idaho.
Very cool.
I want to go snow skiing.
That's awesome. Anything else? No?
No.
Do you know what a bucket list is?
It's like a list that you have to do before you die.
Yeah, I figure I'll just take care of it as it comes along. But if I don't get it done, I figure I got eternity to take care of whatever else there is to do.
Great answer. Have you ever thought about a bucket list?
No, I'm too young. And I'm living it right now because I'm with my best friends from Houston, and two of us moved away. Jade and I moved to Missouri and Iowa, and we're all gathered here for a reunion, and this is my bucket list part of it. Yeah, I mean, it's wonderful.
I don't have a bucket list.
Have you ever thought about it?
Not really.
And I guess my bucket list would just be to travel more, go farther places than I've been.
Travel, and I've taken photo classes. I'm a master gardener. I've done all those. You know, I had a long list. Had a long list, been there. So I'm just whittling it away.
Just something I think about. I said, man, that'd be fun to do. So, it's always something I think, man, I'd like to do that before I kick the bucket.
I'm too young. I haven't marked anything off yet. Turn 17, get my driver's license.
We were just talking about, we went and got our lunch, and I said we should have brought a blanket because we were going to eat outside over there, and we didn't have a blanket or a towel or anything to come sit over here. And I said, well, we can do it next time. And I said, yeah, that's on my bucket list. You know, silly things like that.
I don't know, I just like making things happen, so I knew if I had like a list of stuff, I would probably actually go for it.
I really want to take ballet lessons and dance in a ballet.
That's super
It
cool.
was a childhood dream, and I never got to do it, and yes, it's on my bucket list, and yes, I will do it before I die.
And she was home for the holidays. This was last year. And she took out this big piece of paper and started writing. And the piece of paper is in her bedroom still, and she marks it off every time.
I've always wanted to kiss someone in New York on New Year's. So that's a big one. I haven't done that yet.
But it hasn't been really more like a bucket list, but more of like things to do before I leave high school. And it's my last semester, so I need to get a move on.
Yeah. Do y'all have a bucket list?
No.
Yes.
Yes, I do. Mine is whatever she wants. Whatever hers is, right?
So
No.
How long have you had Jody's bucket list?
I don't know, hon. How long has it been?
Since I told you about it.
Oh yeah, since the whole whale thing. Got to see whales.
I don't have an exact bucket list, but I do want to travel the world, and I want to go visit my grandmother because my dad is a quarter Japanese, and then the rest is all Mexican. So I do want to go visit my grandmother, and that's pretty much it.
Just things I want to do before I die, places I want to go, people I want to meet.
I guess when I think of a bucket list, I think of places that I think of places to go. I don't necessarily think of things to do, but I think of like I would love to go to like all the national parks in the States or something like that, to be able to visit different national parks. I think that'd be neat.
I would like to be a football player and a movie star someday.
That's pretty aggressive.
I want to get some money for a Ferrari.
Yeah.
I went to the Nickelodeon Hotel and Disney World.
You know, we've got to meet some famous people that we've always wanted to meet. So it was, you know, little by little, we're getting it done.
Things I want to do before I die.
Yeah.
What is a bucket list?
You don't know what a bucket list
No.
is? It's a list of things you want to do before you die.
Oh, well, I don't think about that.
Working on my bucket list was fun, but it seemed like I had a whole lifetime ahead of me, until I lost my first friend that I went to high school with. And that was when some ideas about my own life began to crystallize. I felt compelled to do some of the most important things to me before it was too late. This is when I really began to live with the end in mind.
And then there's you. No matter what I do,
I love you. I love you. And that's why I'm here today. I'm here because I know the day is going to come when I can't tell you that anymore. And I want you to remember.
The price you paid for a soul like mine, I thought I could never find.
Things that I do on a daily basis, I am not thinking of how I will be remembered. It never enters my mind. To live in a way that you would be remembered, it would probably change the things you do daily. Probably would.
I spent most of my life working to save money that I expected to be my legacy. And by now I realize that looking back at my parents, the least part of my legacy was the money they left behind. That I want to make a difference with as many young people as I can and have that be my legacy.
Well, I think that a legacy is of value because it reflects what you've contributed with the time that you're on Earth.
When I leave this earth, I would like to think that I made the earth better for being here.
So yes, I'm consciously thinking, but that's also a sign of procrastination when at 42 you're still doing your little projects on the side, you're not really into full-blown swimming, you got your knees into the water and you're saying, ooh, I want to be a good person, but I'm getting ready to. I have got this set of responsibilities. To me, that shows my weakness in character.
I don't know. See, I'm one of those people, I haven't thought about my legacy at all. I'm still in the building phase of my life, acquiring things and making a family and starting a family, and I haven't thought about how would people remember me.
I want to be remembered as having served God and pleased Him with my actions and bringing glory to His name.
I have a son who just turned 8. His name is Logan. And he was diagnosed at 30 hours old with a congenital heart defect called hypoplastic left heart syndrome. He had his first open heart surgery at 4 days old. And just coincidentally, it was the National Day of Prayer. From the minute you saw him, he smiled. From the minute he lived, and he still lives with every ounce of his soul. And he knows. He knows that he's different. And he's aware that he may not live as long as the rest of us. He wasn't given the full opportunity to live a full life. But he doesn't stop. We know he has a time clock. Am I a little bit more lenient? Am I worried about that he's reading on a level that he should be? Am I worried about that he runs as fast as the other kids? No. Because they'll wait for him.
I think miracles happen because God wants something changed.
How in the world did that get, did that get there? Or that person walk in my life, or that song play on the radio, or those little things that just remind you that, hey, someone's listening.
I think they're like little gifts
you know, like this little surprises that happen.
Reminded of my life and things that happened to me, as having a wreck, flipping my car 3 times, flying out the back window, and just had a scratch on my head.
I believe miracles are God's way of helping us out and proving to us time and time again that He is real and He is alive. They're answers to prayer.
Sometimes the universe can align things to where coincidences happen, that everything lines up and you get what you need or what you want. But I wouldn't call them miracles by any means.
I remember when Rylan was first born, which wasn't that long ago, like every day I looked at her, I thought, oh, how is this even possible? Like, how is it even possible that you can birth a child, like this whole grow-up organ, the cells break into different things and they form this child, and she grows, and she couldn't even lift her head a year ago. So she's a miracle. So they happen, I think, partially because people believe they're going to happen, and people see what they want to see.
I believe in miracles. I believe that with God nothing is impossible, and that the greatest miracle is salvation, and of course the most important miracle was Christ being raised from the dead.
It's interesting, I was asked, I actually wrote a chapter in 2 books on miracles, and I define miracles as natural laws put into operation but people who don't know the natural laws call miracles. Because I don't find anything that's really supernatural. I just find things that people don't understand that is natural, and once they understand it, they may still call it a miraculous, but it's really just application.
Well, yeah, I truly believe that He does work through people, and He does send angels. I've been witness to that. I'm a massage therapist, so I've had probably over 1,000 different people on a table, and once in a while you'll get a person. I had a lady who didn't say anything during a massage, and that's not uncommon. People are just wanting to relax. And before the massage was over, she just said, hey, you know that there are people in heaven right now praying for us, right now. And it was toward the end of the massage, and I said, wow, that's really profound. I never even thought of it like that. And that was the end of it. Never saw her, never came back, never witnessed her again. And I truly believe that was just an angel.
And so it's always been a struggle for me to try to figure out how God works. And once I finally realized that I will never, ever, this side of heaven, get that understanding, then I finally gave up and just submitted to our Creator, and my life changed dramatically. And so when this happened, a year or two later, I guess a couple of years later, I was prepared, as much as you can be.
While on their annual father and son hunting trip, Dale and Cameron received an emergency phone call. Dale's wife and youngest daughter had been involved in a horrific car accident in East Texas.
And they were involved in a 70-mile-an-hour head-on collision with a Ford Expedition coming the other direction. It didn't look like either one of them were going to make it.
16-year-old Morgan McLeod had broken her nose, cheeks, base of her skull, neck, back, and other bones in all 4 limbs, including her femurs. She had brain injuries and lost her spleen as well. Carrie McLeod had broken her back in 2 places, shattered her left arm, both ankles, and both shins. 1 ankle alone was broken in 15 places.
They didn't even try to get Morgan out of the car first. They went for Mom because they thought that's who they could save. And the reality was Mom was conscious and threw a fit when they tried to get Morgan out, or tried to get her out of the car first. And I'm convinced that God let her stay conscious just to do that, just to add to this story full of miracles.
Dale and Cameron had to drive 6 hours to get to the hospital in Nacogdoches, Texas.
It's very likely that we're going to lose Morgan and maybe even Mom. And I'm going to choose to praise him whether we lose him or whether we keep him. And, you know, he's over there teared up as well as myself, obviously. And at 11 years old, he looks up at me and says, "Me too, Dad." Then I didn't know who was preaching to who. That is faith that I wish I'd had at 11 years old, and I didn't.
Carrie and Morgan would both survive, and their miraculous recovery would begin.
I know what happened now. Thank God we're all right, but I love you. That's all I want to say. Can't wait to see you. I love you.
Even the small things seemed miraculous during this time.
When we got moved to rehab on the exact same day, 16 days after the accident, we got moved to the Woodlands to rehab, and we were going to be in the same facility, and they made it to where our rooms were right next door to each other, which was so awesome. And to top it all off, it was like the day before Thanksgiving, and so we had families that bought Thanksgiving dinner for our entire extended family, which was almost 40 people, I think. The first time since all this had happened that I got to help, and I got to do something, and just holding a cup and letting her drink tea out of a straw was like the best mom moment I think I've ever had, other than the day the 3 kids were born. It was pretty awesome.
There was so much prayer for our family that I'm convinced that that's how this miracle took place, is that God wanted to just show us all how powerful He is, and that He is still in the miracle business.
I look at life differently now, and I want people my age to not have to go through something like this, to realize the things that I've realized through this whole experience. That there's bigger things in life than, the drama in high school and just the little petty things. Just in the grand scheme of things are so small, and life is precious and we're not invincible. So, take advantage of the time that we have.
Religion was, if you went to church on a regular basis, you would probably lose your job. That was the official state policy. And I guess in all of the communist countries, and it doesn't matter what kind of religion, I'm not talking just Christianity or any kind of religion, the official government line was atheism. So active denial of God. So, but that changed. After 1990, that changed. No, the church was under the control of the state, the communist state, so they were getting paid a salary, so they were just performing their job, and they were, in essence, answering to a higher political authority before their, even higher authority. So,
I studied shamanism for a while, and there's a shamanic practice where you actually die and are recreated. And that happens in a shamanic trance. And in some of our ancient cultures, that was a very valuable thing.
I would say you're talking about different religions and how they can be wonderful, honorable, righteous people. One of the precepts of our religion, one of the articles of faith we call them, is that we believe that in worshiping how, where, and what we may, and allow all men the same privilege. We're not going to force our religion, our beliefs on anyone, but we're very well known for having missionaries all over the world, right? They got the guys in the white shirts and ties and black name tags, right?
So much is done in the fact that my religion allows me to die the best way. And when you think of the attacks on 9/11, And those guys, were going to go off and see Allah after they did this. And they were so firm in their belief that the fact that they believed the way that they did was going to allow them to perform this, in any view, horrific act and get to have this beautiful, gorgeous afterlife.
As far back as 40,000 years ago, we have cave paintings that would suggest that humans, from the very beginning, believed that there was a power greater than themselves, that they could call in for help and direction. And I believe that that's part of our nature. I believe that we came from something greater than ourselves, and that somehow we know that.
I don't, per se, practice any religion. Probably more of, I practice the philosophy of the Buddhists, and meditate, but I'm more of an agnostic.
Everybody's got their own religion, but I think Christianity is the real one, no doubt. And that is the way to heaven. Christ is the way to heaven.
The deal about faith is, I think we all have them. A lot of people have faith that there is no God. That's their faith. I have faith there is.
I believe in evolution with an influence, whether it be like a spark of lightning or, extraterrestrial life helping out, or God even helping out. I mean, it's just, there's endless possibilities on it. So it's just pretty much whatever you can handle and conceive, because not very many people can, come to that sense and actually understand something to that magnitude.
I think that the enrichment of your life is fulfilling the purpose that you were given, and it is possible to waste it away. It is possible to be distracted.
You could say that Mahatma Gandhi wouldn't make it to heaven because he wasn't Christian. I just don't, I hope that the Supreme Being is not that way.
I don't know. How could anybody know?
What is hell? What's hell going to be like? What's heaven going to be like? Are they one and the same? Are we in hell because we're alive? I don't know.
I mean, I know what I would wish for them, but I think it's, it's just, who knows?
A book that you might find interesting is Conversations with God, where God is saying, I don't lose any of my kids. What kind of father would send these kids to a place called hell?
What in hell is heaven? That's the question I ask. And I go in and I give them a series of criteria. Is it something in time? Is it something beyond time? Is it something that occurs before you're born and while you're alive, after you die? If so, where is it? When is it? And I ask these really very unique questions. And even though people may come from same cultural, religious constructs, no two people have the same construct when they're asked these questions.
Most people think that people who go to hell, God will keep them alive forever and ever and not let them ever die, so they can be punished in fire or something like fire forever without end. What I concluded the Bible really teaches is that people who go to hell suffer exact divine justice according to what they've done on earth. Hitler will suffer a lot more than some other person probably, but when that is totally done according to God's perfect justice, then they die, they perish, they're destroyed. It's the second death. They cease to be, they are no more, they never come back, and that's the end of them.
I do believe that there is eternity in heaven, which is unbelievably fantastic and wonderful, and we can't even comprehend the joys and the fulfillment because it can't even compare to even the best of times here on earth, I'm sure.
I think we are given an allotment of time on earth, and when it's over, it's over. I don't believe in hell. I don't believe in heaven.
I believe most people go to heaven. There's a few people who should go to hell, who I won't name today.
I would think one of the greatest things thinking about was to see these people I love, my mom and my dad. And wouldn't that be in heaven? I would think it would.
Heaven's not something I can even fathom.
I mean, you know, as a child, you think of being in the clouds and walking around and everybody's happy and full and content.
I don't know about what to expect in heaven, but the Bible says it's going to be streets paved with gold. There will be no worries.
I'm not so sure that it's going to be a city of gold, like we've been told. It's beyond my imagination, I believe.
If it's heaven or hell, if those things exist, I have no idea. If it's some sort of different astral plane or whatever you want to call it, you know, who really knows?
The anxiety about mortality drives us to the search for immortality.
But I don't think that when this body quits working that it's over, that everything's done.
If there's not, we already have the answer. We know that every one of those molecules can be accounted for, every one of those atoms can be accounted for. We know how the cells decay, we know what the atoms do. We can trace every one of them. We could tag the atoms in our body and trace them where they go, and we know what happens to all our structures. And we are no longer existing. And we could have this fantasy that we're going to have something beyond that. But we have evidence to show, and I have evidence every weekend, that when we pass, the intelligent information and the character traits are picked up.
I think it's going to be a huge celebration, you know, because everything here is working against us, you know, everything. And so when you get to heaven, it's finally, all that sin is over. There's no place for it here, none whatsoever. And what a beautiful thing that'll be.
Looking at that and thinking about it, we do have this real conflict between science and religion, which we talk about in the media from time to time, but there's never any resolution about it. You know, it's just there, and we just live with it. And it's been there forever. I don't know what happens afterwards. I don't think anybody really does. Heaven, for me, there's a reality to the heaven because I believe you can actually, through transcendent experiences, get a little taste of that.
My understanding of Scripture is there is a literal heaven and a literal hell. There's a hell to be missed and a heaven to be gained. And I believe that what Scripture teaches us is that it's only by faith in Jesus Christ that we can have that hope of eternity in heaven.
A funeral is a platform for the message of your life. I think it's the place where it all kind of comes together and everything you were about is exposed to the general public as well as the people close to you.
Honor me when I'm alive. Don't go spend a bunch of money on me when I'm dead.
Yeah, never really thought, wow, I want to have a big room with all of these people celebrating me in my life. But, you know, you hope that people care.
Well, I would hope, of course, I'll have to tell you this first. I know that my funeral no one will be crying. Everyone is going to be laughing and smiling, and they're going to say, oh, remember when Meemaw did this? And it's going to be a great big party. In fact, it's going to be so exciting that sometimes I think we ought to have a rehearsal so that I can be there and enjoy all the fun.
While they still had some health, you know, to be there and you'd be able to basically say goodbye, you know, talk about what they've done in their life, tell stories, whatever it might have been, and you know that in a few months you won't have that opportunity, you know, and so it really is like a living funeral because and that person's got to know that this is their last chance to see whoever they want to see.
I believe that funerals are for the living to bring comfort and encouragement and honor their loved one. But then also I think that we get the opportunity to speak to them about how to make preparations for ultimately for their death as well. And so I try to walk a fine line there, I guess you would say. I don't want to, you know, overemphasize something that they haven't yet embraced, but I want to put it out there in front of them, the Word of God, and let the truth of God speak to them, let it be something that takes seed and it takes root in their heart and then grows, and prayerfully, hopefully, they'll be ready for the day when their life on this earth is over.
I'm not a big fan of funerals. actually. Even the entire grieving process around death, actually, I kind of have a unique perspective on. I think it's kind of a selfish thing. We really grieve for what we're missing.
It's really funny because she wasn't really wanting to let go, and I said, well, you know, what are you going to wear to your funeral? And she's like, oh my God, I don't have a thing to wear, which is what she always said. So we went in her closet and found a jacket that I don't think she'd ever worn, pants, shoes, and everything. So it just gave her peace. And I said, do you want me to put it up because it was hanging there? She said, no, I want it out so I can see it. So anyway, when she died, we went to the funeral home, and they said, okay, well, you know, here's everything your mom prepaid for. One of them was cremation that she had forgotten about, so she didn't need her outfit.
No, I have not thought about planning my own funeral. That's just creepy to me.
I mean, people avoid thinking about stuff like that, I imagine. I personally haven't thought about it much. You know, it's like one of those things you say, well, let my family take care of it.
Yeah.
I would just as soon not have a funeral, not pay for an expensive casket. Were it legal, I think I would prefer to be put in a gunny sack and hauled out into the woods and left. Obviously, that's not going to happen, but I think graveyards are a mockery to the living.
Basically, the museum started out as a warehouse. All of this here was basically just cars. There's avid car collectors in the industry, and they were kind enough to loan their cars to us, and we still have some of them in our collection. But then as time began to evolve and the museum was able to raise money, we started to kind of segment the museum into different areas. So over here we have what we call the presidential exhibit. We go all the way back to George Washington, and we have a copy of the funeral bill of George Washington. And I kind of find it fascinating at how inexpensive his funeral actually was for being a president. And then of course we have a big segment to Abraham Lincoln, because Abraham Lincoln was our first president to ever have a state funeral. And we have the funeral train because that actually was a train built to carry him from state to state. I like to tell the school kids that that's Air Force One back in the day. Unfortunately, he was assassinated before he could use it, so it became his funeral train. And then I always like to ask people, do you know who rode the train with Abraham Lincoln? And that person was also deceased. Nobody knows the answer. It was his son who preceded him in death by 3 years. It was their wishes, again honoring wishes of the dead, that he not ride the train alone, that his son ride it with him. So him and his son rode the train through the journey of all the states that elected him as president. And death was quite a part of life back in the Victorian time period, where people would gather in the town and be really supportive. The funerals were conducted at the home in the parlor portion, and this is where some of the historical terms that we use today, where they came from, is in the Victorian time period, lying in wake. A wake traditionally lasts for 3 days to prove that you were true in fact dead and you were not going to wake up. Because in the 15th, 16th century time periods, they had realized that they were actually burying people alive. And they were doing it because they unfortunately didn't have the medical technology to determine true death. And so that's when the string that was tied to the finger that went above the ground and attached to a bell, it would, unbeknownst to them, begin to ring a bell that was above the earth. So therefore they were saved by the bell. And if their bell never rang, then they were a dead ringer. And that's also where the term graveyard shift comes from, because during the day, usually, the lights, the sunrise, everyone gets up, works in the fields, goes to the cemetery, tends to the cemetery. So if a bell were to ring, then more than likely somebody would hear it. But at night, everyone retreated to their homes because it was dark. So they needed somebody to stay in the cemetery at night and listen for the bells. So that's where the graveyard shift came from. But now we use it today as a term meaning that we work at night. And so again, the term wake comes from that time period. And then also the term living room comes from the Victorian time period, just shortly thereafter, where the funerals were conducted in the parlor portion of the home. In the towns were pretty much spread out. Funeral directors used to have to carry a lot of stuff to each home to conduct a funeral. There was always the embalming kit, the cooling board, the casket, the chairs, the Torchier lamps, the crozier, the book and stand, the organ. All of this was very cumbersome to take from home to home to home. So they came up with a concept, well, why don't we have one funeral parlor located in the town as the towns begin to grow and populate, and we would bring the deceased to the already set up home or funeral parlor. And so that's why when you walk in a funeral parlor, it looks very homey-like, kind of like the parlor of the room. And so now that the deceased were now removed from the home and taken to the funeral parlor, the parlor portion of the home was no longer for the dead. It was now a room for the living room.
I learned from her, I learned how to die. She never complained the whole time, ever. I mean, she was so wonderful.
We decided that we would never be without each other at the holidays. We would always have a celebration. We do a round robin, you know, and we just relish life, you know, because we realized how short it was for my mother and father.
Well, first of all, I believe that everyone is eternal. We're designed to live forever. There's something about us that we just can't say goodbye very easily. We're designed for eternity and eternal relationships.
We're cleaned by the fire, you know. When they make a sword, you know, they put it in heat and a fire, and it gets out the impurities. You know, so I can't think of a better way, you know, to be a symbolism of everybody that I'd love to watch me get purified and go to heaven, you know. I think it would be the most beautiful thing. I'd actually love to go to a funeral like that, you know, to experience it before being on top of the fire, you know. Yeah. I really would. That would be a blessing to see.
Spirit tells me so. You've nothing now to dread or fear.
On February 26, 2006, Susie Alverson received a phone call from the Harris County Coroner's Office. The person on the other end of the line informed her that her son Lance had died in a car accident. Devastated, Susie and her husband Ed went to the site where his car had come to rest, against a tree on the side of the road.
Got to the accident site, and I just cleared the sand away, and I put my hands directly on the blood, and there was a lot of it. And then I had trouble removing my hands, and my husband just finally pulled me back, and I'm looking at my hands saying, I don't know what do I do with this? I can't wash his blood from my hands. This is my child. This is all I have of him. What do I do with his blood? And my husband said, it's okay. He said, we'll go home and we'll wet a piece of paper and you can make handprints and put it in his baby book, which is what I did. Right here, and I didn't put it in the baby book, but I put it in a memory book. My answer to healing was to connect with my son. I didn't want to read another book, a grieving book that was meaningless to me. I needed to find my boy, and I needed to do it by whatever means I needed to do it, whether that meant going against my religious training, my religious teaching. I knew it didn't make sense to me that God would give a mother this love for her baby before they're even born and lose that baby and then all of a sudden say, sorry, no more communication until you're on the other side yourself. It didn't make sense to me, and I just prayed about it, and I asked God, you know, let me know somehow if this is against what you want me to do, but I'm feeling like you're saying, go find him. He's right here. So what I've done with my grief is I've kind of flipped it over, and I've reached out to other people who need help. My passion right now is to sing music and play my guitar for the terminally ill, because they so often go alone without anybody there holding their hand.
Where angels wait in heaven's view to sing God's lullaby to you.
On September 12, 1995, a family friend named Hilton Crawford abducted McKay Everett in an extortion attempt to obtain $500,000 to pay gambling debts.
For me, every day I bear the cross of knowing that my child was severely mistreated, brutally mistreated, and killed, and that he was deceived. And I can only imagine what else happened, because the truth went to the grave. So for me, I have a deeper understanding of what it meant to pull a cross. I have a deeper understanding of God sacrificing His only Son. Would I have sacrificed McKay to save another human being? Absolutely not. No, I don't understand or comprehend that love. Not only did I have a struggle with dealing with my son's abduction and murder, and him being put in the trunk of a car, him being bludgeoned, him being shot at the age of 12. I had the hurdle of dealing with an overwhelming loss of mobility and speech that I had to recover from also. Then, to top that off, to realize I saw heaven. And my son was there, and that's really where I'd rather be. But I was still here on planet Earth. But while I lay there, not being able to move and thinking frantically, I kept hearing a silly tapping on a lampshade. I didn't know what it was. I just kept hearing that tap, tap, tap. And I could roll my eyes at that point when I heard that tap. I could do nothing else. I could roll my eyes. And I rolled my eyes to that lampshade. And there was a silly moth tapping on that lampshade. And my grandmother's words came back to me, just washed over me, and I could hear her say, "You're special. God knows you personally. He knows every hair on your head, because He even has the stars named. He calls them by their name." And my grandmother's words were real. I'd always believed her because she was my grandmother, and I loved her. But they were real because, you see, only God knew, and only I knew, there were just two of us, that I had just completed Chuck Swindoll's book, Flying Closer to the Flame, where he talks about a moth trying to get to the light. No one else knew. God sent the moth to minister to me at the darkest hour of my life. And I knew He was there, and my brain went, watch for the small things. God is here.
McKay's mother, Paulette, went on to establish the McKay Foundation to help educate children on how to be safe, find inspiration and self-confidence in facing life's challenges and becoming moral and ethical leaders.
Does God make everything perfect down here? Absolutely not. No. He does not. I wish He did, I have to say, but that'd be heaven, wouldn't it? It wouldn't be earth. Each morning I wake up and say, welcome to planet Earth. This is as good as it gets. This is it.
If today was my last day and I knew it was going to end at midnight tonight, I would be writing letters to everyone. You know, I'd gather my family together, but then I'd sit down and I'd write a note, something for them to keep, and tell them how special they were and how much I loved them, and then I'm not afraid.
If today was my last day, I better hurry up and write the last instructions to my lawyers about the will business because it's still incomplete.
What if I walk out this door right now, having filmed this, and die? I mean, does that happen because I came and filmed this? I've now jinxed myself. I'm not ready to go, but this movie could be a hit because I was here right now and walked out the door and died. I don't want to be that guy.
I think the most important thing I need to be telling people is that God's always there and I love Him.
I would try to do one really big thing. Maybe fly out of a plane or something, because that's what I'm doing next year.
My philosophy about dying is to stay ready. We might drop dead right now before I get out of this chair. We don't know when we're going to pass, and so we have to stay ready.
Listen, stuff like that happens.
My faith tells me this, that the moment I die, it will be because God had fulfilled His purpose for me. Not Mark fulfilled Mark's purpose for God. No, God fulfilled His purpose. I believe that's at that moment, God says, well done, my good and faithful servant. You died, but you did what I wanted you to do. Yes, but I didn't do this. I didn't help these people. I didn't go out and drag people to church and all this. I should have done more. Hey, that might have been your purpose. My purpose, I fulfilled. I let you fulfill, and that's why I'm bringing you home now.
I tend to live my life as much as possible from the standpoint that today's the first day of the rest of my life. And I fall in and out of that, as I'm sure most people do. Death really doesn't seem to have a direct impact on that thought process, but I do think that the proximity of death as I get older makes me more agitated with the wasting of time.
You're born to die. It's going to happen. And I think that it's going to make people realize that they're not going to be here forever to do everything that they want to do, so they better start, living their life right in the way they want people to remember them, because they never know when they're going to go.
Jamie Gilmore is a pediatric cancer survivor, currently fighting a rare form of cancer called actinic cell carcinoma.
The first time I had cancer, I was 14 years old. I had a small knot, like right here, and it came back again, and then we did a biopsy, and it reconfirmed that it was the same type of cell, which was actinic cell carcinoma. The morning of my operation, the anesthesiologist came in, and I was about 2 to 3 weeks pregnant, and everything obviously was canceled. We were in such shock that we didn't even know. I hadn't even missed a cycle, so it was a really big surprise, but a great one. I had a cancer diagnosis and I was pregnant now at the same time, and we didn't really know what the doctors were going to think about it, if I could carry a baby for the full 9 months with cancer or not. Michaela was born December 4th, 2002, perfectly healthy, wonderful pregnancy, with all the stress, just a miracle that she came out so perfect, and we were just so blessed. She really made it a lot easier. Whenever I did go through cancer, she gave me a reason to live and to fight to get through all of it.
Jamie was recently told again that for the 4th time her cancer has returned. This time it has moved into several places in the body and Jamie has decided to opt for treatment through the MD Anderson Cancer Center's Targeted Therapy Department. She is currently undergoing a clinical trial involving rigorous chemotherapy while she serves as chairman of the nonprofit organization Jamie's Hope, named after her quest to find a cure for her disease.
I found out that I had stage 3 lymphoma, Hodgkin's. Everybody asks how you feel about that, but it's strange. It's literally like it goes through stages. I was in disbelief, and poor me the first day, and cried like almost like you're in a dream. And it spread to 7 other lymph nodes of my body. If I'm angry at all now, I'm angry at myself for not taking care of my body. That's all that kept going through my head was, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Nothing else kept going through my head, you know.
You don't want to go through life saying, I regret that, or I wish I could get that back. And I would just pretty much tell them, and you can preach it all you want and they'll do what they want, but it's just, that's what I try to tell all my younger friends, is just never take a second for granted and grab life with both hands and just hang on to it.
This is not God's final word. That death will not have the final word. Paul in 1 Corinthians 15 says that Christ has defeated death, and someday he'll come and it'll be clear.
You know, there's scripture that says God knows those who are his, and he knows, I know he knows everything. He knows the number of hairs on my head, but the fact that he knows my name. Can you imagine a president or somebody walking around and seeing you in a crowd, and he says, hey, Crystal, hey, hi, and all of these people, wow, how great that would be. God is looking down. I know that guy. Oh, man, and when I'm die, Christ coming up, that is just, wow, that's worth dying for, I think.
One thing about death, to me, it's in the ultimate category of you should never worry about things that you can't control. And that's number 1 on the list. I mean, you hear the death and taxes. There's people that don't pay taxes, but all of us are going to die. So why worry about it? You know, I mean, it's going to happen. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen 40 years from now, but it's going to happen.
God mentioned, and then I'll shut up about this, he mentioned faith, hope, and love. These 3 abide, and the greatest is love. And he said that because faith, in time, you're not going to need it. You're going to be there. Yeah. Hope, you don't need hope anymore, Mark, because it is realized. Love abides forever.
I've had a wonderful life, and don't give up hope. Things always get better.
It's not a scary thing. It's when it happens, and then I'll wait to see what happens on the other side. So,
I think all the things we do predicate on doing them for the right reasons when you're alive, as opposed to some reward you're going to get when you die. And then I think if you do that, whatever that answer is going to take care of itself.
I really don't worry about it at all. I feel like maybe God kept me around here to do something, and so I keep trying to figure out what it is.
I would tell the world that we need to have more love in the world. I would tell the world to trust in the Lord. I would tell the world to get on their knees and pray more. I would tell the world to read their Bible more. I would tell the world that we are all human beings. We all are born to live. We all born to die. That we need to embrace each other. Forget about your color. Forget about all the things that don't really matter, and just look at that individual person's heart, and know that that person is going through some of the same things that I might be going through. You know, tell the world just to communicate more with each other. and begin to love each other.
Well, the bottom line is we're all going to die. Someday I'm going to be gone. You're going to be gone. And it's what we do with what we have that matters. You know, a lot of people spend their lives wishing they had something different, a different set of circumstances, different partner in life, you know, different job, different things, different families even. And it's when we get focused on what we don't have that we actually miss out on what we do have. And what we do have, if you're watching this film, is life in our bodies. And we're not promised that for tomorrow or for even the next moment. And so why waste it? Don't waste it. You can't get it back. When I got ready to order my casket, I decided to have it custom made into a piece of furniture that would be used in my home until I die. It was awkward at first, having a casket in the living room, but now we laugh and refer to it as the coffin table. It has become a great conversation piece and a reminder of how short life really is. While I'm not sure we can truly get our finite minds around the idea of being fully prepared to say goodbye to those we love, our own end in this world is inevitable. It will happen whether we feel ready or not, and to live as though we are not going to die is merely existing and not really living at all. Death is a part of life. Be serious, be funny, be bold, or be private about what you believe, but don't pretend it will not happen to you, lest you be unprepared when that day comes.
Don't take the people in your life for granted. It's easier said than done. Put your family and your friends first. Always. If you have an opportunity to go do something fun, to make memories, do that instead. Don't worry about if you have a messy house, having guests over. I never would have anybody over if my house is a mess. If they're your real friends, they don't really care. They just want you. Just love. Love everybody. Everybody. Because you don't know who you're encountering that day. You don't know if you're actually encountering somebody who might be broken and on that last, and it might just be that smile that you gave to the toll booth person, you know, that's having a really bad day, and you just went, you know what, you look beautiful today. It's amazing to see the smiles on their face. I do that a lot now. Be grateful, because everything is a gift. Everything. Grateful and loving and forgiving. Forgiving. Just let it go. And never miss an opportunity, ever, to tell someone that you love them. You know, my kids, they could tell you too, I love you. I say, I love you, I love you. I know, Mom. I know, Mom. We know, Mom. You tell us, because I do it. But you can't tell somebody that you love them enough. You just can't, because you can tell them, you can show them, but when you leave here, that's all you leave with. Love. That's it. I mean, that word just keeps coming in my head.
Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep.
If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take.
I planned my funeral for many reasons, but mainly because I wanted you to know I'm sure of where I'm going when my time here is up, and I didn't want the message of my life to die with me. My greatest hope is that when your time is up, you will be there too. Until then, it's up to each of us to make the most of the time we have been given. Because I will die, and so will you. It's the only guarantee.
Things light up above. If there's one thing that I've learned, it's that I don't know everything. I could search everywhere and lose a heart in me. I could write 100 songs, every single key, but it all will fade someday. That's the only guarantee. Yeah, oh, that's the only guarantee. Yeah, oh. Of all of the choices we grew, where, when, and how, what will they say about me when the curtain's coming down and it's time to bow? There's one thing that I've learned, it's that I don't know everything. I could search everywhere and lose the heart of me. I could write 100 songs in every single key. It all will fade someday. That's the only guarantee. Yeah, yeah, the only guarantee. If there's one thing that I've learned, it's that I don't know everything. And I could search everywhere and lose the heart of me. If there's one thing that I've learned, it's that I don't know everything. I could search everywhere and lose the heart of me. I could write 100 songs in every single key, but it all will fade someday. That's the only guarantee. Yeah, whoa, that's the only guarantee. Yeah, whoa.
Every now and then a few of the pieces fall on you. Do what it takes, step around the jagged edges and to find a clear way through. Life's not fair, but it's the only one we have, and here's a clue. What you leave behind is not what you have, but what you do. You can't change me, but you can walk beside me while I choose the way I want to go. If I can't see, you might be the beacon on the path that I might need to know. Life is hard, but remember, just like rain and melting snow, what you leave behind will help everything to grow.